District judge ruled the president's National Guard takeover in Washington, D.C. was an illegal use of his power. They're now calling for the president to pull out troops from the city.
The judge said that the president has the authority to protect federal property, but he cannot use his power to unilaterally deploy troops to combat crime within the district.
All right, our chief legal analyst, Khalif Rhodes, is joining us. Khalif, that we know that this order isn't set to take effect for a while to allow the Trump administration to appeal, which we know is going to come. But break down what you feel about this, because it's a separation of what you're allowed to use the National Guard for.
U.S. District Court Judge Cobb said exactly what I said months ago when this happened. I talked about the distinction between California and D.C. California, the governor has this unilateral, or I should say bipartisan type of approach where the governor controls the National Guard troops, but the president can also call them in, typically with the governor's discretion. However, in D.C. it's different. The president does have control of the National Guard, so they're distinctly separate. However, as the judge said, you can only use the National Guard for a few things. You can use them to protect buildings. You can have them to protect federal property, but you can't have them as these, as she called them, attempting to police, using them as a statewide, citywide police force. And that is the issue that the judge took with the Trump administration. Trump administration comes back and says, no, this is well within his lawful authority. I believe the judge got this right, that they cannot be another police force on the streets. There's no statutory authority. There's nothing that gives the president the authority to allow them to walk on the streets and arrest and be police. What they can do is protect, which is something distinctly different than what he was attempting to have them do.
All right, so with that 21 hold, troops are going to be in D.C. until about December 11th to allow for that appeal. So if you're the president's lawyers, which we know that there are many, what are you arguing to say, hey, like we should be allowed to continue to have troops here? I
always say when a client gives me a question that I don't know, I'm like, I'll look into it, right? And there is really no direct path to there. The path now is put them in place. What do they say in the real world? It's better to ask for forgiveness,
right,
than for permission.
It's probably not rooted in any law, but that's what you would probably tell the president, that you don't have a leg to stand on. But because you're the president of the United States and you can order these folks to go there, they can appeal. They can file a lawsuit, and in the process of filing that lawsuit, your troops will still be on the ground. And this is what has happened. They have been there for the last few months fighting this out in court. While they're fighting this out in court, the troops are still there. And even after that, now this judge has spoken, typically the judge wouldn't say, I'll put my own order on hold for 21 days to give you time to appeal. Typically, my order will be in effect at the moment that I sign it. Right. However, recognizing that this is a very litigious society and the president is not exempt from that, there will be an appeal coming instantly, because what? I'm the president, and I want to be able to tell them to go there. I just don't think the law in this case supports him doing that.
Khalif, since the National Guard troops were essentially deputized, allowing them to make these arrests, if you were somebody who was pulled over or stopped by National Guard since they were deputized and it's found that they were unlawfully there, what does that do to the arrest?
I won't say that it nullifies the arrest. I wouldn't say that. It has to be some type of constitutional misstep, like the search was illegal or something like that. But I do follow your rationale that you would say if my stop was unlawful, that whatever happened after that should be tossed out, fruit of the poisonous tree, like they teach you in law school. But the courts have held, well, if I would have gotten to this end result anyway, then ultimately the arrest would be upheld if there's overwhelming evidence. Now, I don't agree with that as a criminal defense attorney, but I can tell you the courts have held that even if we would have got there and we did something unlawful to get here, but the end result was that we found you with 20 pounds a week, it really doesn't matter how we got there. And that's surmising what the court and summarizing what the court has said. But President Trump has attempted to say, this is declaring a criminal emergency in D.C. That's his justification. Back to your question, Annie, that's the only way he can get there, but I still don't think that's enough to deputize, as you're saying, and to make them become a police force, which he's attempting to do.
All right, our chief legal analyst, Khalif Rhodes, weighing in on that. We'll see you back for another topic.
Queen City News Plus. Just search Queen City News on your smart TV's app store.